everyone. I'm going to do this intro live, not a voiceover. There'll be a quick video after this. It's been sped up showing you how I glued this down. This is a 10 by 14 tile. Big tile on the back. I took gel medium because extra heavy gel because I wanted it dimensional. I wanted it dry clear. Gel medium you can colorize. It's not like a regular, I suppose regular glue you probably could colorize. I want it totally clear, nothing that could possibly go matte on the flakes. This is how they come packaged. Pretty full to the top. And I know I've explained it in a couple of videos. The one that's sped up, I'm going to really not talk through, but they come pressed. It's just the natural way this material forms. And I'll take a little paring knife or something skinny and split the flakes apart. So if you get these, see, I just took this flake off of this one. Let me put this back on top of the bag so you can see this. And there still may be, I gotta get my glasses on. Yeah, there's still 3 layers if I can get it in there. So there's a second one. So now there's 2 off of this flake and it's still that size. Looks like there's another one. There's another one. And this will split somewhat, split in half though the other way too. But this also split apart. So that one piece, and actually this can still be split apart. Might as well do this live on camera where you're watching me and hearing me say this. So that one piece will cover that much of an area. That one little piece that I started with. And even this looks like it might go to another sliver. I'm not going to do a close-up for you, but I want you to look and turn them to the side before you use them and take the time to break them apart. You're going to get a lot more spread or usage out of them for your dollar than just gluing them down, which of course will be easier where they're really thick. You can get your thickness if you want more height. Got flakes everywhere now with this thing. By using the gel medium or even a texture paste, a stucco. You can press these in anything that has some kind of way to adhere them and add texture. So here I'm splitting the flakes up and laying them down in the gel medium. I think for the future, I talked to a friend of mine and I think I'm just going to sit around here at night, or if any of us are sitting around there at night, when we're, in our chair, I think I'll take my cup and break the flakes apart. So I'm not trying to do them while I'm laying them down on the piece. But this portion actually took about 35 minutes to glue these down. So that's why I sped this down to about a 2-minute speed video. My mind goes to all kinds of ideas of what could be done with these flakes. Obviously, fish, maybe the back of a tortoise shell, or there's been a little bit of discussion about possibly doing some mermaids and having these champagne pearls be part of the mermaid tail. What do you guys think? So we'll see what these look like, how they react, because I'm just going to use water. I could stain these in advance if I want to. I have, to be honest, been testing doing these in colors for y'all. But right now, let's just show you how to put them on and paint them yourself and get all kinds of interesting effects with that champagne pearl. One of the colors I've been playing with a lot, and it's turned my, matter of fact, I'll show you guys on camera. This is that chunky gold, okay? Now you're probably gonna say, well, wait a minute. That doesn't look gold to me. That looks kind of pink. Well, it began as the chunky gold. This is the color it was. This is the color after I colorized it. And now it's ready to go into resin, okay? And you can even do it with the smaller flake. I know people right now are just ordering the big chunky gold and they're not thinking about, this is pretty big too. This is still a fairly good sized flake. So depending upon the application, you know, the size can be adjusted. But I simply took some Playful Peony powder, spritz it with a little bit of water. I did let it dry for a couple days. Now this has basically got a dry paint on it. If you put this in acrylic, some of that color is going to bleed off. But the beautiful science behind this, you put this in resin, it's going to freeze up. That's not a bad thing, meaning the color is going to lock up just like this, and this is exactly what it's going to look like in resin. So this is a really pretty rose gold. And all it took was a little tiny bit of the primer element. That's the label, so you can see the name. But in the Playful Peony, this is a bigger jar that doesn't have a name on it, but you can see I wrote Playful on it, so we know that's my Playful Peony. But this is how I made it, okay? Pretty cool, okay? Now, you could even add a little bit of the Bling It. I wouldn't add interference, but I would add the larger, because the interference is just going to make it back to the Milky Way kind of style, a little soft. But a little bit of the big sparkle Bling It, the larger particulates, you can put any color in here. I'd probably put a little bit of gold and a little bit of violet, okay? And that way when you lay it in the resin, you're going to get this little after sparkle. And because these flakes are so big, they allow all the clear to move through. Okay, what you can't maybe see is I just put some wax paper here. Really cut a piece of the cut right out. So, so I can pick up, get my brush wet, pick up a bead of color. I kind of made a mistake by putting some water in this palette already. All I want to do is kind of thin down the yellow. And then I'm going to try a little bit of the Mango Freeze. This is Mango Mama or Mango Freeze. Now, they're the same color saturation of yellow, okay, but one has interference red in it. This is the one with the interference red, this is one with the interference gold. And on paper, again, they have identical color of yellow. Admittedly, I wet this paper first, so let's just, to be fair, because this sunburst is beautiful. There's nothing wrong with it, it's just the mica changes how you see it. Now see, this is dry cardstock up here. I didn't add any water to this. This one I pre-wet. And just simply changing the mica shifts the light so it looks like a warmer yellow. So you can see the interference gold and the interference red. And it makes that one with the interference red look like it's darker value, but it's, believe me, they're the same yellow. It's just, this is what the mica does. The mica shifts the light and changes how you see it. I'm going to pick up a bead of the color. I think this is the ginger peach. And all I'm really using is the wax paper for is mixing it and maybe add a little bit of water to it. So there's the ginger peach. Okay, so do I want to, it looks a little bit similar to how the mango is. Of course, the mango is going to, I know, is a lighter value when you put them right next to one another. It's night and day. And the other orange, and again, I'm just picking up a bead of color with my wet brush, mixing it on my little palette here. And this is the spiced pumpkin. Now this would be for just a pop. The edges might be this color. You might get an occasional underwater rock that has that pop. And you can make the spiced pumpkin more concentrated. That's just me really, really thinning it down with a ton of water. This is it, much more straight on the piece. Two of my favorite colors in the world. I use Playful Peony for so much now. Oops, I used it right. You see that? I wet my brush, dipped it in, and put right on the paper. I didn't even bother mixing it off. It is a more subtle color. It's perfect for staining those top of the rocks to get that rose gold. And now you can see why mixed in with that gold, we get this color, right? Now the Pupillaria, be prepared. This has a lot of rhodamine violet in it. I am going to mix this off on my wax paper. Same value, but more pink. But the two of them blended together, it's glorious. I actually love those two colors blended together. So this is that Plumeria, Playful Peony. You got your, see now the ginger peach looks more yellow in this card, and I tell everybody it's the darkest yellow we've got. That's the chestnut brown. This is our nutmeg. And then for the fun of it, I think I have some Playful Peony mixed up. I don't know what pile it is over here. I think it's this pile. Take some of my Playful Peony. So I like it with the chestnut. It's a pretty combination, but I think for underwater, nutmeg's going to be my brown. I'm really thinking Beach House Blue. It's a smoky, weathered blue, like the houses in New England after, you know, going through hard weather. It wasn't like a typical blue sky blue. Personally, I'm going to say I love what Stargazer does to something. It makes things look kind of like an abalone shell. You can tell I don't have very much of this left, but I'm going to attempt to use that as a highlight because I'm going to take a little creative license in my blue area. And the deeper version of the beach house, just for staining the edges, and you don't need much of this stuff, is Bolivian blue, and it's very dark. It's actually got a little tiny bit of black, and it's considered one of our antique colors. So this time I've been doing it like I was going to do it on the big tile, right? And part of me wants to go light to dark, like start with the lighter shade in the center of the area, a little bit darker and a little bit darker. So if I was using the Stargazer as the lightest color, it's not going to look very much like on the paper right now. It's going to look real light. The interesting thing about Stargazer is it's a blue violet and dries with an interference green. It's perfect as a highlight color, layered on even on top of something. Now the beach house blue to me is going to be the main color for my story for my blues. I think that's beach house. It sure looks turquoise next to that. And there's that Bolivian. I don't know. I kind of... That little bit of Bolivian in the Stargazer is kind of pretty, and yet the little bit of Bolivian that's gone over the top of the beach. I wanted to try this Summer Breeze, because it's supposed to be like a sea glass. And Guatemalan, which we know is a more of a darker green teal. This is probably going to give us more color than we're expecting. But there's some options. There's your Guatemalan green versus your Summer Breeze, which is like a sea glass. I like that color combination. A lot. Guatemalan green to sea glass.
So from this point on, I'm going to be doing voiceovers. I've sped some of this up because otherwise this video would have been about an hour and a half. What I did is I trimmed up those swatches that I did and kind of decided what order to put them in, and I ended up taking a Sharpie and marking off 5 quadrants on the side of the tile. So I'm first going to apply the Stargazer in the high point of section 1. And I'm just moistening my brush, grabbing the pigment, and letting some areas be more transparent, other areas be more textured. The primary elements will dry fine. Now, if you were going to have to use acrylic or something else, you'd have to fix this, but the resin will not reactivate a water-soluble color. So it will stay right where we're putting it down. This next color, that's that Guatemalan green. And I'm kind of going on the outside area of the Guatemalan green. If I was going to take my time and try to do a masterpiece, not that this won't turn out pretty, uh, each flake has like a high point, a midpoint, and the sides. So the ultimate would be like a drop of some kind of highlight color like the Stargazer on the top of each hump of the flakes, and then edging the edges of the flake with the Guatemalan green, kind of letting it go into the midsection, and then tipping the edges with the darker color. But for the interest of getting a video out and showing you the application and several color combinations, this is the Bolivian blue, by the way. I'm trying to put it in all the cracks wherever I see white spots. Either color didn't go in there, maybe there's only tile coming through, it could be gel medium beneath. But I'm just kind of carefully trying to edge it so it creates more dimension with the Bolivian blue.
Right now.
So this is the Playful Peony. and I'm in the next section up. You can see that little mark there from the Sharpie marker on the right hand side. So I'm doing the same thing as I did with the Stargazer, putting the Playful Peony on the highlight. And I switched up browns. I did not do a swatch test on this brown, but I ended up switching up the browns to Autumn Leaf. It's an absolutely gorgeous, just like it sounds, warm autumny brown that just, it's a beautiful color. It it stains everything kind of an orangey yellow. There's a lot of gold in it. It transitions well with the teal. It just ended up being my choice at the last minute. So this next color, I'm going to take some of the pomegranate, which is a deep reddish. It's a deep red, but it's kind of got a burgundy to it. It's going to mix pair really well with the brown. Um, might dry with an earthy, reddy look, which I don't mind for this particular application. I just want something to accentuate the cracks and to kind of accent it just to see what happens. You see where it's resisting the tile. I'm going to end up having to mix up a little tiny bit of PolyPour with some primary elements to fill in those spaces. This next color is the Mango Mamba, Mamba. That's that yellow that had the interference red in it. In this light, it looks very yellow. I'm glad I chose this over the Sunburst. I know when I turn it, I'll see more of the golden reds, but I'm glad I didn't pick that other yellow because it would have gotten really lemon yellow. And this is already yellow enough. Now I'm putting the ginger peach down, that darker yellow. Now this looks like spiced pumpkin going down. That's that much darker orange that I had, just to accentuate the cracks. And you can get a little puddle and kind of rub it out with your finger. I mean, get creative, guys. This next color is the Summer Breeze. I called it Sea Glass when I was doing the swatch, but it's Summer Breeze that gives you a sea glass effect. I really, really love this color. It's subtle, but sometimes that's what you want. This is that Beach House Blue. And see, it's kind of a smoky where, the Guatemalan green was more green. In a distance, when I spread it out on the paper, the Beach House Blue looked really green, but boy, in a concentrate in those little sections, the blue really shows up. That weathered blue really pops. I knew it was in there somewhere. So we're doing pretty well. I'm kind of tilting it back and forth just to get an idea of what all these different sections are drying like. I'm kind of digging the sparkles. I realize it's more of a carnival of pearls, but hey. Well, the darker color is the Bolivian blue, so I chose to use that as the darkest blue in both sections that are kind of turquoise to blue. So I'm going to alternate back and forth between beach house blue and the Bolivian just to kind of accent that area. And in this final section, I'm just going to go ahead and stick with the Playful Peony Autumn Leaf. Sort of ran out of room on this bottom section. I pushed the envelope a little bit too much on trying to get as many colors down here as I could show you guys. I wanted to represent. Now this section, I went a little bit darker, more Playful Peony, not just in the center. I got a little crazy. I started seeing how pretty the autumn leaf was going up into the blue, and I started purposely coloring the blue, and I realized what I was doing and wiped it off. But this one, I'm going to put a lot of brown on top of the pink. And I think my accent color here is also going to be pomegranate, but you can see that this area is a little bit more saturated than the first one I did on that top section. Now you're going to want to let these dry, I don't know, a good 12 hours. 24 is probably the safest. I mean, they might dry faster because it's just water, but if you really get them saturated, the last thing you want is to have some water keep evaporating in your resin. So you're better off if you're going to paint them directly on, just let them dry really well. Just think about if you painted it with acrylic paint, you let it dry overnight. So, boy, that pomegranate's real dark, but it gives us options. Lots of color options with the primary elements. Pretty much the sky's the limit. Okay, so now what I've done here is, I think if this is correct, I'm looking at the brush I'm using. Yeah, what I've taken is just a few drops of the PolyPour. That's our acrylic polymer medium blend that we're using for pouring, but it's also great for brush painting. And I just put a few drops in the bottom of my little medicine cup, just a few drops of the PolyPour, a few grains of some chestnut brown, and you can see I'm going up the side of the tile, and anywhere I see any kind of big gaping holes where tile is popping through, and there wasn't even gel medium there to color. So I'm just kind of filling it in, and it's also going to add more dimension. And I'm just going to continue to keep filling in the spaces until the piece looks more complete. So I'm going to let this guy dry for several hours, probably 12 hours before I try to resin it. And I'll be back. So, hope you enjoyed watching this part of the segment.
Hey everybody, so I'm going to mix up some tints, and I know you guys have seen me do them one way, where I've used them for an alcohol effect, or I've mixed them into a paste. These are matte color, there's no shimmer in them, Resin Art tints. This time I'm going to make them into like an alcohol ink solution, very strong. Like I'm just going to put a little bit of alcohol in this and dilute these, so then I can control the color saturation, because I want my tints to be transparent going over the top of my piece. So that's Bahama Mama. This is Turmeric. It's like a curry yellow. This is Hot Lips. Which, I don't know, I have an awful lot of stuff with red on this, but hey, on my piece there's a lot. And there's my Hot Lips. So in this little bottle, I just happen to have this little bottle with the needle on it. It's got some 99% alcohol in it. I think I used a little bit too much in cup A. Mix these up into a nice slurry. Okay. You don't need much alcohol. That way you're not putting too much alcohol in your piece. There's that Hot Lips. It's like a hot rhodamine pink. Okay. I'm going to, I'll show you how to do one of them. Even though my cup's not transparent, I'm going to apologize in advance. Running out of clear cups. Here's some art resin. Probably about an ounce. And I'm adding a few drops. You can always add more, but you can't take it away. So I'm only adding some. Oh yeah, and I'm getting a very, very nice transparent liquid see-through blue. I think I'll add a few more drops now that I know where I'm at with color saturation. Oh yeah. Now I'm getting the shade that I want. A few more. There we go. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing with my other two, and I'm going to reserve some clear. There's the Hot Lips baby. Woo! Plenty of that in there. And then my Turmeric, which is the color of a curry yellow. Oh, that's a pretty color. I'm in a little bit more, and then I'll probably add what I got left in there. There's a little residue on the bottom because there's a carrier for the color, but even if that goes in, it will go completely clear. As long as you don't use too much alcohol, and I didn't. I made my colors concentrated. Oh yeah, that's a beautiful color. Okay. So I'm also going to add an extra little bling to my piece. Here are my flakes. See, we put everything down, gloves on, everything out of the way. But just to add some extra sparkle, I personally happen to like what the Bling It Gold looks like. The Bling It Sparkle Gold, the really big chunky stuff. So I'm just kind of dancing a little bit of that through my piece. Put the rest back. I didn't use very much. I used hardly any. And I'll see if I can find the Bling It Violet, because gold and violet are opposite on the color wheel. And so they will be contrasting when I'm, there we go, here's the Bling It Violet. Let me show you probably about how much I actually use. That much. You can see it. I'm just kind of letting it move on its own a little bit in here. Final little dusting of color. The Bling It Sparkle is a real giant flake, so okay, well I want to know that I'm going to have an area that is completely clear. Kind of want to do it first. This is my very first test pouring resin on these flakes. Wish me luck, kids. I know it's going to blow some of my Bling It off. My resin's real cold, so it first went down kind of milky. Okay, so now that we've established that there's going to be a place for some clear, and I hope this is transparent enough. Well, that's just pretty strong, so I'm actually going to add a little clear in here. I'm building this slowly. I'm not going to just dump it all in. I want to see how this color is reacting, how much saturation do I need to see the flake below. Here's the Bahama Mama. I'm hoping I didn't make these too strong. Put a couple drops of clear in here. I'm getting quiet here, kids. I'm just kind of focusing on.
So now that I have all the resin down, I'm hitting it with my heat gun. And I must admit, in hindsight, I was a little bit afraid the colors were too rich. After looking at this, part of me wished I had just done four diagonal straight areas instead of kind of mixing the clear with the color and the clear with the color. I mean, no regrets, of course, but I find those deep periwinkle colors very exciting where the hot lips has gone over the top of my turquoise blue areas, and that color combination is gorgeous. I love the warmth of the turmeric. I like how it's warming the areas, and of course, nothing wrong with Bahama Mama blue. That's a pretty color, but it's so interesting. And we didn't use green at all, and yet all of that green is either coming from the turmeric going over the blue or the Bahama Mama blue going over the top of that yellow center. Pretty interesting. So I'm just going to touch up the edges, and then we have a close up here in the middle in a minute. Okay, now this was taken off my phone. I wanted to capture a close up so you guys could see the sparkle. It's real hard when the whole thing is shimmery to try to capture the sparkle on camera. But some of these colors that are coming across are real surprising. How the pearls colored with the primary elements below, that color's peeking through, but being enhanced. Look at that dark blue. We didn't put any dark blue on there, but that has to be the Bahama Mama and the blue making that purpley blue color. It's just interesting how when they're layered on top of one another, how all the colors change. I cannot wait to see mermaid tails, ocean themes. Think of all the resin pieces where people are doing the sandy shoreline. It would be beautiful with these pearls. Geodes, maybe just some texture with some stucco on part of your canvas and press some of this in for texture. And do them all in like a chrome color, something really simple and elegant. The sky's the limit, guys. It really is. I hope you've enjoyed this little sneak peek into how to play with the Champagne Pearl Mica from colorart.com. And I look forward to seeing you guys next time. If you've enjoyed this video, I hope that you will like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Thank you for joining me. Have a good day. Bye bye.